Pab, how are you? That's a proper Scouse greeting. Come and join me.
Sorry I'm late.
Big hand. How are you, buddy? I've not seen you for ages. How are you? Yeah. Come and join us. I was just telling them some stories.
I can get rid of the mics.
Yeah.
Let's get rid of the mics.
Hi everybody.
This is Pab.
I'm so sorry I'm late. I actually thought I was doing this in Sydney, but there you go. That's rock and roll for you. And
What we can do, we can touch on that because one of the things I wanted to talk to Pab about was not just the audio engineering side, but the bit where how do you live, how do you manage and all that. Just to give you some background, do you mind if I just kind of give you some background?
Go ahead.
So, Pab, probably the world's #1 engineer without any sense of, exaggeration.
It's not true.
I've told you a million times, don't exaggerate. Paul McCartney, AC/DC, Paul Simon, Dave Stewart, Annie Lennox, Faith Hill, Tim McGraw, Leo Stair. With that.
You want a mic, do you?
Do you mind?
It's because you're recording it.
Yes, I'm on the other end of these. Hello, everybody.
What you could do, Clark, if you want, is just pull us down in the house, but leave it to Sean, because I think he's going to record it.
It's all good.
Yeah. So, Pab has done every single band going on the planet, currently on tour with Sir Paul McCartney, who went to the show last night. Wasn't it awesome? Didn't it sound great? It was amazing. Bianca loved it.
It was difficult, I have to say. It's a bit of a weird building.
Maybe talk us through, Pab, what's going on there? Is it like mixing sound in a big soccer stadium or something?
It's not so much that. Because of the weather, we enclose ourselves in a tent for all the obvious reasons, sun and rain and everything else. And the sound inside the tent was totally different to the environment outside. One of the things you learn over the years is you start to judge things ahead. And it's normal. You get used to that. You know the sound is going to be totally different inside. And my eyes are bloodshot. That was the alcohol last night, and I apologise for that. But it was only a few hours ago I went to bed, I think. It was a good night. So, he doesn't look too happy. One of the things you do is you get out the environment where you are, you get amongst the audience, because that's what you're mixing for. So it was just strange last night. It was just in the tent. So the effect that you get when you're inside a tent sometimes when you're mixing, of course, you try and open up the sides, you de-skin it as much as you can, but because the weather was on the verge, you only do a certain amount of things. You don't want water on the desk. Safety is paramount. You want the show to continue, and you have to get over it. But you learn about this stuff, and so you get out your environment where you're mixing. Just take a step, even 10 feet to your left or right, it can sound totally different. Certainly with low frequencies. So anyway, it did sound very different last night. It was an extreme example for me. And so I had to keep running in and out. And felt like it was probably 3 or 4 dB hotter inside the tent. It was a lot more present. It sounded great in the tent. I was happy there, but when I kept going out into the field, I was slightly disappointed. I thought it was sounding better than it really was. So I'm glad you enjoyed it, but it was one of those nights where I was, not that I wasn't happy, I was just, stuff going on in your head. It's very weird being a sound engineer, it's very personal. You're mixing for yourself how you think it should sound, but of course the main thing is you want it right for lots of sets of different ears, lots of opinions, wives, girlfriends of the band, friends of the band. I couldn't hear the guitars as much last night, all this kind of stuff. So anyway, it was a weird night. It's not a bad venue. At least it's got a hole in it, so some of the sound goes out. Trust me, makes a big difference. And the shape of the roof over the seats of the stands, it's kind of weird. you don't really, like sometimes a normal flat roof, you'll hear a definitive reflection. But that one, because of its shape, it does disperse, it does diffuse the sound, but it's still adding something, and you do kind of notice it, you know. So lots of things going through my head last night.
Could you, there's a lot of tech people in the room, just give us an idea of the scale of production on McCartney? You know, how many boxes you're flying around, monitor rigs, mixing consoles, how much are you flying, how much are you picking up with local contractors? A lot of people interested in that, Pab.
Hello. Yeah, so we're using, basically Paul McCartney uses Clare Brothers out of America, or now, you know, they've got divisions everywhere, Switzerland and here in Australia. I'm using their new PA system, which is it's called Cohesion, and it's a brand new PA which has been out probably about 18 months. It's just getting into its stride now. It's had a few tweaks. I like it very much. So we normally would, if we're touring, we take that, well, we're taking this one PA system all over Australia, goes in a truck at the end of the night, it's driven, we set it up every day. The amps are Lab Gruppen, if anybody's heard of them. I don't know what the model number is, but they're a fantastic amplifier with processing built in. It's all networked to front of house by Dante or whatever, you know, we have various backup systems. We actually had a problem last night where the Dante failed and we went back to analog. Audio difference is, in my opinion, negligible. What else are we using? I'm using an Avid S6L console. Great bit of kit. I used to use XL4 Midas analog. Still the best, probably. But only so many channels in a given area, so much space. Beauty of digital is you can get a lot of inputs in a small footprint. You get a lot of effects, you know, all your effects. It's all in there. I don't use anything external. I use everything that's on board. You know, I'm happy with that. I know there's some digital engineers that still like the key things. Yeah. But I'm happy with everything that is built into the console. I think it sounds okay. So yeah, it's and then we track everything. I've got a Pro Tools rig which is attached to it, purely for archiving. Whenever Paul goes on stage, for copyright reasons and et cetera, we archive everything. As soon as he starts speaking, as soon as he walks on stage, I hit record. I'm probably recording about 96 plus channels every day, every night, every sound check. That's it. Microphones.
Yeah. Everyone's got their own favourite microphones in this room.
Sings into one of these, a Shure 58, you know, good old standard. Yeah, I like the Audix on the drums. Been a favourite of the Audix series, D6, D4. I don't try and stick to one brand just for the sake of, you know, I get a lot of suppliers saying, oh, you should use this, you should try this, and that. You know what? It's not about what I want, it's what the artist likes as well. If I put a different microphone in front of Paul, he'd go like, what the fuck's this, you know, seriously? No, because they get used to how they work the mic, you know, the distance and how, it, you know, their monitors. I've got to think of the monitor engineer as well. It's not just about me. I've got a guy there who's got a very critical job on stage. So I recommend mics to use, ones I like and known results. I talk to the monitor engineer and yeah, once I put a 58 on Deborah Harry and I was doing a couple of shows for her in London, and so it's my first day with her. She comes in and she starts singing. She goes, what's this mic here? And I run up and say, hi Debbie, I'm Pab, I'm your sound guy. There was some promo shows, and I said, oh, I thought that mic was, you know, I like that mic better than the one you're using. She was using, it had a flat front. It was a PL something. I can't remember. And so I said, not a problem if you want to go back to the one and all that. And she goes, I said, why do you want to use that one? And she said, I've just had $20,000 dental work done. And she didn't want to scratch her teeth on the pop shield. So you know what? You end up using, and that's a true story, you end up doing things for lots of wacky reasons. But at the end of the day, you know, you're there to take care of the artist and their wishes. And that's that.
Now, you've mentioned this isn't a one-man game. It's not just Pab. You've got how many people working on McCartney show? Estimate?
You know, with this tour, because the PA is a very, very efficient system to fly and rig, we've got probably we've got some delays as well in this particular building. I think we have a couple of delay guys and a couple of main PA crew. I have a system engineer.
How important is that? We had Tony Szabo down recently, and he popped in to see us. It was one of the great systems guys, or used to be till he retired. How important is that to you, getting a system tech who can interpret what you want into, you know, figures and numbers and so on?
It's obviously really important that if you're lucky enough to get a good system engineer that can kind of, you know, when you look at him, you go like, it's a bit scratchy, you know, that they can go, okay, I think I know what he means. I've got a great system engineer right now, a young kid, Andrew Dowling, total geek, nerd, fantastic, you know, doesn't drink, doesn't do anything, he's just totally into his gig, young kid. He's amazing. And yeah, you just come across these people, and some you just don't get on with. It's important that you get on with them. It's important that you know you can talk to them, and they can understand what you're doing. Looking at an RTA together, you know, an analyzer. You know, he starts to understand what I'm feeling and hearing. You know, we don't normally do anything for the first couple of songs once the system is tuned. We let the show start. We let the adrenaline die. I mean, with Paul, it's such a long show, like nearly 3 hours. We probably give it 3 or 4 songs just to let everything calm down in your ears to adjust to the SPL that's all of a sudden that's going on. And system engineer, your team, you know, a great team is you're as good as your team. You know, surround yourself by people that make you look good. Simple as that. It works.
I've done it all my life. I'm still doing it.
But no, my SE's great, and he's just totally honest in the modern world, you know. Yeah.
The modern world, we talked about it just before you came in. We've seen that transition from analog to digital. How did you make that transition? How did you upskill to do that?
You know, I still am a big analog fan, and I was quite happy using analog. What happened was there was a friend of mine who worked for Yamaha Digital Audio, and he was jumping over to Avid, and they were bringing out their new live console at the time called the Venue. And he told me about its capabilities and would I be interested seeing it, the prototype, and blah, 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 and give him my thoughts on it, and for whatever that's worth. And the key thing that made me move across was that Paul's home studio was basically all getting into the Pro Tools kind of way. I mean, he was all about tape before that and all that, but it's all Pro Tools, and I talked to the guys there, and they said, "Is there any way you can start to give us Pro Tools sessions?" You know, and I was like, I might just have the answer, rather than having a big external setup and you know another guy looking after it and all that, which we'd done in the past and all sorts of formats. So it was basically the fact that Paul's studio got Pro Tools. They'd asked me, could I give them the archives in that format? And the new desk was one of the first products that allowed me to do that in a live kind of way, off the console, off the mic pre's, all as one. And it was great. And I'm still doing it. So I kind of went down that Avid road, and also the fact that I was fascinated by plugins. That was something new to me, and they were, that was all being developed at the time. It was just very interesting to play with that. Still nothing like having something you can look at, at the corner of your eye, a compressor or whatever it is, some kind of vocal chain, and you can just give it a tweak. It's great to do that. But now it's all. I'm just on a mouse all night. It's crazy, really. But I've got snapshots now, so I can preset songs. I can where an output of a compressor may have a 3 dB boost on it, or a bit more squish, or whatever. So as I'm hitting the button, it's saving me going da 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 da, and you get used to that interaction. Well, I did, luckily. Some people still, are not fans of it. I am. It's good.
Yeah, I've slowly seen those people exit the industry. I know John Delph in England's just been out using Heritage and racks of gear, and he's pretty much archived it on Instagram because he's aware it's probably the last time that it will be used in that type of environment. Let's just flip away from McCartney to AC/DC. There, we've got a Midas Pro 40 console, which is 30 years old?
So that was only a couple of tours ago, so it must have been about, I don't know, within the last 5 or 6 years, like a Black Ice tour. How that came about was I had some time off, and Malcolm and Angus out the band had invited me into their studio while they were writing Black Ice, and for some reason their current operator, they had this little tiny studio. I mean, it was in a house. It was half a house in London, and anyway, so they wanted me to look after it. They did everything to 8 tracks virtually. They still probably do for demos. It's drums left and right when they record it, and this is for demo. I'm not saying it in the main production recording, but anyway, so I'm sitting there and having a year and a half of conversations with Malcolm and Angus in a room is interesting. But Malcolm and Angus, but Malcolm especially, he was a great teacher. Actually, he God bless him. He was all about analog and just keeping it all very, very basic. 57 on a guitar cab. Used to go through a little Marshall PA 20-watt head into a twin 12 cabinet in an ISO box. We also, one of the interesting things we did to give the sound a bit more crunch is we went in through an ADAT, an old ADAT machine, and out, just straight through it with record, just went straight in and out of it, and that 16-bit processing kind of give it a bit of crunch, just a sound they liked. But they were all about analog, and they talked to me about Neve. We had a little Neve broadcast desk, which everything went through that as well. And he was saying it'd be great if we could get a Neve on the road, to do our tour and all that. And I'm going, don't think it's going to travel very well, and it's I wouldn't recommend it. I said, but I do know of consoles, and particularly a console I can get my hands on, which is hand built, very much like Neve, transformers on the inputs, blah 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 blah. 33 inputs, very strange number, but that's Midas for you back in the day. And it had been set up on a shelf for like 12 years since. I first used it. Well, I never used it. Peter Grange used it back in the Dire Straits days. There was a pair of them made for that tour, custom built. And it had served its time. It got up on a shelf. And we dragged it down and give it a dusting up and a bit of a rebuild. And that's why I used that desk, was to try and get as close to a real basic analog desk. 4 AUXes, actually, I had 4 plus 4 AUXes, that was a mod. 33 inputs, like I said, and nothing fancy. Great sound and EQ, great mic pre. That's what you wanted. Great front end. If you've got a great front end to your signal path, it's gonna be a benefit all the way down the line. So we chose that desk, and every now and then we used to give it a thump on the masters to wake it up, kickstart it. I'm serious. It's a bit of a worry, 18-month tour, and she made it to the end, and she's now retired again. So
Fantastic. Now, what are the biggest differences between someone like mixing AC/DC, which very kind of loud pub rock, very rock thing, and McCartney, who's got an incredible range of material that could be a bit more musical or a bit more
totally.
arty? How do you approach that?
Well, AC/DC, it's just, rock and roll is an understatement. It's just very, very basic. They don't have anything on stage to affect the signal. I mean, Malcolm, he'd be on a cable, didn't want to know about RF. So we get a nice new bit of cable, we plug him in, he'd walk out to his mic stand, and that's where we cut the end off and put a jack on it, and that would go into his amp, and signal and link to all the other amps, which were behind the cabs. Angus, nothing in the chain really. He experimented on the last tour, which he was trying to get a bit more of a fizz sound, a hang sound to his the hang as he calls it, which is sustain basically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's very, very that's just very, very basic, and it's so loud on stage. I mean, we measured the microphone position, the BV microphone position. That was something like 125 dB at that position. At the mix, I can remember being in Scotland once, and we would play in an arena, and the guitar tech is just checking out Angus's guitar. Clang, clang, clang. And the lighting guy goes to me, just have to be that loud. And I said, dude, the PA is none. We were over the dB limit. The PA was not even on. Yeah. It was just the guitar tech checking Angus's rig out. He used to hit the mix 105 plus. And so there lies then another problem. You got these guitars screaming at you right into your face. And you go to the side of the arena where you haven't got that direction. So you probably find out you're going to be mixing the guitars light, because you think where you are, it's like, okay, that's a balance. And you go off axis up the side of the arena to the side of your flown PA, and you're going like, oh, where the fuck's the guitar? Well, it's just coming off stage. So another good use for somebody in your team, like your SE or whatever, would run up there and come back down and he'd go, turn the guitars up, and then my face would be peeling, with guitar. So that was a weird way of kind of mixing, and even on the last few tours, certainly on the last tour, because of the ego ramp, as we used to call it, where Brian and Angus would, come down to the audience, which is great. But it used to create this trough right to the mix from the stage, and it would still, even with a big PA like what we had, it would still, make the mix slightly strange. So, as far as judgment, so we moved our mix to one of the delay towers. We just went right to the side. So I just had a big stack in front of me, and that was my monitor. There's no stereo to worry about, really. You shouldn't be getting too deep into stereo in live mixing anyway, because if you've got stuff half panned and people are sitting over there, it's going to be, strange. We do tricks where the side hangs are opposite to the main hang, so, you go left, right, left, or whatever. And, but yeah, we moved the mix over to one side, just made sure we had a big monitor in our face, and that way, that gave us a much more even balance for mixing the show. So that's the wackiness of something like AC/DC, where it's just so loud, and of course massives of spill into everything. Brian is not a strong singer. He's got a great character in his style and his sound, but he's not a strong singer. I'll turn this off, by the way, just before it lights up. So he'd walk past Angus or Malcolm's rig, and like he'd sing, and he'd drop it as he walked past. As he walked past it just sounds like a chainsaw at 1,000,000 dB, And so with him all the time, mixing AC/DC is literally just pushing his fader up and down for every word he sings. I mean, seriously, like Hell's Bells, You have to put the BVs on a mute group because you can't leave them open because so I'd just be doing BV hits on the mute group, and then an Angus solo. It's just dump that, push that up. Very basic mixing, but quite tricky actually. As far as inputs go and style of music, one of the easiest bands you could ever want to mix for, but actually one of the trickiest bands if you don't get your dance right on what faders are up and what faders are down, it just screw your mix up totally. And like I say, if you're hearing all on stage stuff in arenas, incredibly loud, but good fun. Best band probably I've ever worked for. Sorry, Paul. But Paul obviously is a whole different thing. When I was on analog, I just have a stack of cue cards, and which would just I'd have the names of each of the musicians, basically what they were doing, whether it was a solo. I mean, you get to know it, but you just, as you come into the end of a song, you just glance down, you go, okay, right. Next song. Great, now I just go, next. Next. VCA up for the effects return, that's it. But so two totally different styles, of course. Paul's music, from a ukulele to Helter Skelter. Yeah. It's a very enjoyable show to mix, from that point of view.
I'm sure every student in the room would love to mix it. Now, going back to early days, where and how did you start?
First of all, I'm going to give you a bit of advice. Get a proper job. It's much easier. No, I'm very lucky to do what I do, and how I've got where I am, right places, right times, etc., etc. So I came out of school as a mechanical engineer. I was happily working in the factory that I worked in, machining, grinding crankshafts and all this kind of stuff,
That at Vauxhall's or something
No,
like that?
it was just an engineering shop where I got my apprenticeship. I did my apprenticeship, served my time. And that was great. And I thought that was, I'm a petrol head. I love anything mechanical and that. And I was happy, I'd clock off the end of the night, go home, ride my motorcycle and et cetera, et cetera. What happened was, in the glorious Thatcher years in the UK, she went to war with the unions. And she basically said, we've got to make all workplaces more efficient, trim down your work, your staff and all that, blah, blah, blah. And I was just the last person to gone to work at this place, and so I was the first one to let go. And I was kind of happy, I got my apprenticeship and all that, and I was starting to get into other things in life, which I won't talk about. But it does rhyme. It is a saying that goes that rock and roll. And I was just having a lot of fun, so it's probably good I wasn't operating machinery, actually. So off I went. And I think I was just unemployed, enjoying lazy life, riding my motorcycle, being skint, all that stuff. And a friend of mine said he knew this local band, and their engine had blown up in their gig van. Could I fix it? So I said yes. So I fixed it. They said, I fixed it, and they said, "Oh, what happens if it breaks down? We're going to Scotland and all that. Can you come with us?" And I'm going, well, it's not going to break down, but okay, I'll come along for the ride. Watch a gig, do a weekend up in Scotland, drink heavily, and have fun. And which I did, and I've been doing it ever since. So I liked it. I sat there, and the first thing I did was can you, for this song, Pab, while you're here, for this song, just flick these, I had these 3 switches, red light, green light, blue light, so just flash them, so I did that for them. In this song, can you run down the front, strike a match through it in the ashtray full of gunpowder? Which was an exciting thing. I was like, ooh, what's this? Lemaitre, you know, she's going tubes of powder. You know, oops, you know, then he blew the place up. So you do that, all that kind of stuff, front of stage. It was loads of fun. And we were doing this matinee show, and the engineer at the time, Big Dave, lovely guy, great at rolling a joint, but couldn't mix toffee, you know. And he got heckled by somebody in the audience, like, you know, fucking can't hear the vocal and all this. Like, we're in a pub, you know, it's just a bit of PA and all this. And he's like, fuck this, and slid to one side. And he goes, you can do it. So I was like, fuck yeah. Slid across, and that's literally how I started mixing. And, you know, and actually while I was with them, I just started to learn the basic things about when, you know, we were getting extra speakers to plug in and stuff, and, you know, learning about listening, whether the speakers were in phase and basic stuff. You know, I got taught very basic things. I was lucky to have some people who just pointed me in certain directions, which you carry for the rest of your career, you know. One of the things I always say or not that I do this is probably the second time I've ever done this kind of thing, talking to a bunch of people, but I do say that, you know, it looks, you know, just to think you're going to go there and push a fader up and it's going to magically happen, or you're going to put a plug in and a plug in and a plug in on it, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't mean jack. It all comes from the source. You know, you've got to make sure your input is good. The better input, the easiest time you're going to have. You know, if you push the fader up and it sounds great, hey, look at me, I'm great. You know, it's great. McCartney's input is great, you know. AC/DC's input is great. It has lots of madness that goes with it. That's just something you deal with. But at the end of the day, when you hear Angus fire up his guitar, it's like, hello, you know, thank you, you know, fantastic. It's loud and all that, but it just, you know, it sounds awesome. So if something isn't right, don't try and just fix it on the desk. You know, go back to your artist that you're working with, whether it's the drummer or whatever. Talk to him. Just listen to it at source. Go down there, you know, in rehearsals. The main thing I do is, as I just walk around the stage, they'll be in mid-song, you know. I'll go and stand behind Paul. He's like, you know, like, what the fuck are you doing? You don't seeing what it sounds like here. You know, he's used to be by now, but I you know, I listen to what's going on. I listen to what's coming out the speaker. I listen to how the drums are acoustically. If the thing's going boo, you know, don't put a gate on it. Talk to your drummer. See if he can correct it at source, because that's, you know, the more better it is on the input, makes your life, you know, way easier.
That's really good advice. Now, a lot of these young people here, they're all starting in the industry. What are the words of wisdom could you give them? We're starting to see that new crowd come through. You work with John Lewis, Kerry Lewis. I taught John at Lipper.
Yeah.
And he's now become he's stepped up and he's kicked all us lot out. And this lot, the next lot behind him, you know, so they're hoping to enter the industry in the next year or two. What could they do?
Well, John's dad, Kerry, is somebody, was one of my teachers, you know, back in the early days of Concert Sound, the company I worked for in the UK. And it's just, I can only just say it over and over again, just go back to basics, You know, okay, 58, you know, let's put a 58 on his vocal, you know, Pab uses it on McCartney, it must be good. Get a bunch of mics and talk into them. Go off axis with them. See what they do, you know. Get to know the stuff that you're using, you know. Microphones. So first of all, the source, and then listen to a bunch of mics, see what characters they've got, and then you'll go, oh, I think that'll be good on that. You know, it's got good rejection, or it's open, or whatever. It's bass, you know, it's got good low end. So you get to know your tools, really important. Get the front end sorted before it even comes anywhere near your desk or your recording rig or whatever. You know, get the capture right. It's really important. Think about phase. You know, I've seen some of the most stupidest things done. You may have even seen it where, you know, you think I've seen there's a caption that goes around on Facebook every now and then, or whatever. There's a 57 on the amplifier of a Marshall on the head, you know. But you know what? I've done a similar thing to myself. I've been in a situation where you're doing a festival or something. A band turns up. You think he's got a 4B12. It's not. It could be a 2B12. And I've put a mic on it, and I've been hitting the wood, thinking I'm on a speaker in one of the four corners. And you're going like, what is wrong with that? You know, it's like, So just get it. Just check your front end all the time. Just, you know, don't assume anything that, you know, that a 4B12 cab is a 4B12. Physically listen to it. Put your head in front of it. Talk to the musicians as much as you can and find out, you know, what's going on. Vocalists, good luck. They're in a world of their own. But that's, yeah. I just say, I keep going back to basics. I always say, just go back to basics. You know, my overheads every day. You know, I used to get a drumstick and just use it as a reference. You know, it's that high off the cymbal, that high off the cymbal. So you get some kind of consistency going, whether it's 2 or 3 fingers between the tom mic and the skin. The more you can keep all that consistency going on a day-to-day basis, then once you've tuned the rig, your desk will just fall into place. You'll start to get a lot more evenness and consistency. Tuning the PA is a massive thing as well, you know. You know, one of the first things I did was used to just play with a DN27 in those days, an old Clartet, 27-band equalizer. Get one. Listen to frequencies. Get to understand, you know, start to get your hearing a bit more precise, you know. That's 1K6, it's not 1K, it's not 1K25. Just start to listen, you know, play with stuff, get to know your tools, what they're doing.
What reference track do you use? We've got a big chart going on a whiteboard of Brody uses this one and Gareth uses it and Tim I use Jeff Butley, My Sweetheart the Drunk. What's your one?
None. Pink Noise. That's what I use. You know, once the system engineers kind of time and lined everything, ground stacks to flown stacks to sides and front fills and all that to make sure it's uniform as possible. I like just to give it a massive blast of Pink Noise, save it, look at the RTA. You know, I've got a shape, what I call is a shape that I like to try and get systems to look like, and on the RTA. And funny enough, Peter Granger, once again, that name again, mentor of mine, Dire Straits engineer, formerly, fortunately not with us anymore. He was way ahead of his time. He was a great teacher. And, you know, back in those days, you didn't have all this fancy stuff to make stuff sound great. You had 3-band EQ on your desk, probably, some selectable mid-range. You had a 3-way or a 4-way crossover, and you had a pair of graphics, and that was it. You know, I mean, now we can control every single speaker that's up there. We can make it go forwards, backwards, sideways, anything we want. You know, for the whole array. But so, you know, like I say, going back to basics, just whatever you use. You know, whatever song, if it works for you and you're finding you're getting good results, then that's great. You know, use whatever you want. I have used songs in the past, but I used to use all sorts of stuff.
It was always used to be Big Mick. Always used to like Donald Fagen's Night Fly and things, and used to hear that over and over again. You know, I got fed up of hearing it.
Yeah, there's all sorts. The various songs where somebody will go like, "Well, the snare on this is recorded great," so they may just play a bit of that to listen to the snare, you know, or a drum track or whatever. I just go with pink noise, and I just get my shape every day, you know, which is normally, it's a little bump in the low end because that's kind of normal. I peak the low end around about 6380 for kick drum, and then I let it roll off slowly, evenly to like 1K, and then it should just slope off very, very evenly. That's what I do. And then the next best thing, there is virtual playback nowadays, which is a great tool. You know, that is, you can record the band the night before, it comes back into the console, and you can play it back through the PA just like they're up there. Great, you know, just solo drums and just get your kick, snare, and hat sounding good. Listen to something else, build it up. But I just, so if you've got your RTA looking very similar with pink noise on a day-to-day basis, you know, you've got your mics in an approximate position from a day-to-day thing, and nothing too crazy going on. You should literally be able to turn the thing on, and you're good to go, you know. And the way time is with large productions, you know, in arenas, to make the time work for you in a day, you'd build a stage out in the arena, so there's no chairs on the floor. So the stage is on wheels. So the stage is getting built where the front of house mix position is. So you can't set your desk up because that's where the stage is. They're still rigging all the lights and the PA. And when all that goes up and they finish setting the stage up, they push that underneath, connect to all your cables, throw the desk up, and then you watch Paul walk it in for sound check, and you're going like, thanks, you know. So it's really handy to be able to just turn it on, and you've got a really great starting point. You know, of course, you will hopefully have a bit more time, and you can, you know, tune the system a bit more, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, blast, shape it, go for it, you know. Sound check. AC/DC didn't sound check, but which is probably a good thing.
Pab, we've talked a lot of technical stuff. Can I just touch on some of the other side? A lot of the students are kind of under the thing at the moment of, I can't wait to get out on tour, and I can't wait to live that lifestyle. And could you maybe give us the reality of that? You know, because you all sleep with supermodels every night and throw colour televisions out of penthouse.
That's why I was late today. I was just trying to kick them out the door. You know, there's so many of them.
So maybe you could just maybe fill us in on living on a bus and what it's really like.
It's, you know what, my job is not so much of a job, it's a lifestyle, totally. And, you know, you are living on a bus. You just, you know, sleep is a luxury. And I'm in a fortunate position now. You know, where I am now with who I work with, I'm getting treated nice. But the rest of the crew on this tour, I guarantee, you know, it's like, oh, great, we're going to Australia, we're going to New Zealand. I've always wanted to go there. I've always wanted to see stuff. Since we arrived, those guys have not stopped, not slept, literally. You know, we get on a plane, we'll fly, like, after Brisbane, so we fly to Sydney. That night, they get off the plane, they literally go straight to work. Straight to work, and the next day we've got a show, you know. And it's tough. Family and friends, say goodbye to them. You might not see them for a while. It's tough, you know, relationships, tough. I'm single, go figure. I've tried relationships a few times, just doesn't work. They haven't got the patience for me anyway. That's I'm speaking from personally. But yeah, you know, it's a tough one. It's a lifestyle, and you've got to be able to get on with people, live with them in close environments like the back of a bus. You could be doing a long journey, 16 hours or something, you know, sleeping in a bunk, which is like a coffin, a little bit of a curtain as your privacy, getting shook around all night, you know, you don't sleep well. It's great. I love it.
Okay, I can't keep Pab much longer, but I could maybe just field a few.
I'm all right,
okay?
yeah.
The lady there, you were signalling me desperately. Would you like to ask your question?
I guess one of my main questions is how you protect your hearing.
What? What was that?
How do you protect your hearing?
That's a good question, because how do you work with something like AC/DC? No, seriously, it's a worry. I've done 4 or 5 world tours with them, and like I said, it's not subtle. It's incredible, and it's all those mid frequencies. You know, it's hard. And people say, well, why don't you mix with, do you put earplugs in, or and forget it. I can't do that. I just can't do it. If I'm going to listen, I've got to listen. I just can't put anything. So you know what? I think one of the things that's helped me is literally being able to just understand frequencies, like I said, and taking some of the harmful ones away, like 2K5 and 2K, and those ones that, that will really make your ears ring at the end of the night. Just get the shape sorted. In the old days, it'd be like, Pab, see if that speaker's on there. You'd melt and climb up the truss, run along the truss, slide down the multi-cord to the cradle of Martin bins in the air, stick your head in it, it's okay down, and shimmy your way down the cable to the ground. No health and safety. Yeah. And you're putting your head in, HF horns and stuff. I don't know. I don't know how. I do get my hearing checked. I haven't done it for a while, but I have done, and it's okay. You get a bit of natural roll off with age, your 4Ks and stuff like that. But that's why I look, that's why I rely on an RTA. Get a good RTA, and if I think I'm hearing something, I cross check it visually. And I don't know what else to say, really. I just, don't put anything bigger than your elbow in your ear, they say, don't they? Which means don't put anything in your ear. I do carry a syringe, which sometimes I'll fill with warm water, and sometimes I'll just flush my ears out. Because trust me, just flushing my ears out.
Xander, you would go there. I said, yeah, thank you.
But I'm lucky. I know other people who do have problem, and tinnitus or tinnitus, or whatever you want to call it, is a problem. I don't really suffer from it. Sometimes after a gig, of course, when I'm lying in bed, I'll get something, but it's definitely normally gone by the morning. I'm lucky. I don't know how I do it. I mean, I'm being honest. I'm 58. I'm 59 soon. I'm getting old, and so good RTA. Just be sensible, on how where you put your ears, When I was telling you to go and listen to the guitar cabinet, I mean, express caution, don't do it in front of Angus's cabs.
Xander.
That was a good answer to your question. I have a question that I really want to know, and I'm sure a lot of people would too.
Ask it, go on, I dare you.
I'll do it?
Yeah,
do it.
Ask it.
How do you look after, like, health, eating, physical, and all of that?
I eat well, as you can see. I eat well. You know what? That's one of the worst things about being on the road all the time is you end up eating a lot of crap, because the pizza's on the bus when you get on it at 2:00 in the morning, and you're eating pizza, before you go to bed, and drinking heavily, of course, because you try and knock yourself out because you've got to get up in a few hours' time to do it all over again. A lot of people now, they're a lot more conscientious, they go running and all that. I've tried to keep myself fit and stuff, but you are what you are. And you just got to look after yourself. Just try and sleep, try not party too hard. It's so difficult to say that. Because it's all fun. It is fun. What I do is fun, and I'm a lucky person to have had all the opportunities I've had. But you do have to look after yourself. You can't just all of a sudden wake up one morning and go, oh, I've got a cold, can't do it today, I've done gigs where, it's coming out of both ends, to be blunt. You got to do a gig, and it's just, if you're sick, you're sick. Of course, if you're dying, you can't do it. But I've touched wood. I've never I've never missed a gig ever from ill health, and I've been in some pretty bad states, you know.
Are there any other questions? Gabriel.
Steal the band's oxygen before you go and do a gig. That's what I always used to do, is go and grab Brian's oxygen tank, and I'd be like this before the show, doing a half an hour of his oxygen. Of course, when he needed it during the gig, it was empty, you know. I felt great.
Gabriel.
Still on that note, was there any situation where your hearing were impaired by either ear infection or tonsillitis or something like that? And then how did you overcome that?
I've actually burst my eardrums probably about, or one, I don't know which one, 3 times. 2 in one or the other. One from serious allergy, sneezing so hard that I went to stop it and I popped an ear. Ow. Diving. I love diving, but you shouldn't really do it while you're working on a tour because, you know, it doesn't help. It never happened to me while I was working on tour. And now, if there's some extreme sports that I get invited to or want to do, I decline it now that I'm older. When I was younger, you're a bit more robust. But, yeah. Did I answer your question?
I just wanted to know, how did you make to compensate hearing loss during a gig?
Well, the old equalization, you can do that sometimes even during a show, and it's pretty drastic, the difference when you're feeling a little bit dull in your ears and you pop them, all of a sudden all the highs come back and the high mids and stuff. Not recommended, but sometimes you have to do that if you've got a bit of a head cold or something. Like I say, I rely on the tools around me. I get to know what my meters are doing, my RTA, and my right-hand man, and I go, everything sound okay? Is it too loud? When I was doing AC/DC and McCartney at the same time, I'd turn up for a McCartney show, and I'd have to go to the manager and go, is it too loud? Because I've just come from I just flown overnight from doing an AC/DC show, on the other side of the world, and I was juggling 2 jobs, and I'd have to all the time say, is it too loud? You'd look at your meter and they go, no, it's great. I go, okay. But one of the guys from Clare Brothers who came to see a show in Madison Square Gardens with Paul just recently, he turned around to me and said, last time I heard you mix, Paul, it was a little bit on the loud side. And he goes, that's when you were hopping around doing AC/DC. And I went, yeah, probably. So, yeah. Just...
Any other questions? Gentleman in the front?
Yeah, I saw a talk by Sam Cutler, who was the Rolling Stones road manager for a while, and he said the people at the very top of the music industry usually treat people pretty well, and he was generalising, but would you agree with that? I mean, they're quite...
9 times out of 10.
Sort of had some people...
I've worked with some utter... bonkers. Yeah, I mean, their egos are just huge. I mean, yeah. Generally, I mean, Paul's amazing, and AC/DC band, fantastic, every single member of them. Couldn't work with nicer people. But you do come across the odd difficult one, for whatever reason. Sometimes... I remember, Mark Knopfler from Dire Straits when he was doing his solo career. He became a real miserable person to work with, so much so that the monitor engineer at the time quit and never went back to doing monitors again. He was done. He was destroyed. And it was because he was going through a personal situation, at the time. And letting his frustration come out, during his work, and but there are times when you'll see a harmonica, a mic stand, a microphone flying through the air at you. I've done monitors. That's why I go out front now. They can't reach me from there. Do front of house. You can't get hit by the band. That's my word of advice. Oh yeah, seriously, I can remember having a fight with Mark Almond. We were doing these shows, and
I know where I'd put my money on that fight.
I don't know. Great artist, great performer, whatever. And he kept sticking his microphone in the wedge, and it was feeding back. And I was doing monitor, and I'm thinking, like, the fuck are you doing that for? You know, he's going, it's feeding back. And I'm going, well, what do you expect? You know. So anyway, he throws the mic down. He storms off into his dressing room right next to the stage. And I was tired and livid and had enough of his ways. And I kicked the door off his dressing room. And when I boot the door open, I was like, who the fuck do you think you are? You know, talk to me and all that. We became best friends after that. That's an absolute true story. I did kick the door off his dressing room, and his manager jumped on me, and you know, and I was like, what's his game? You know, sorry for my language, but there you go. Yeah. You want to know what I'm like? You're seeing me right now. You know, it's crazy world. You know, you're dealing with lots of personalities on a day-to-day basis. Like I say, managers, girlfriends of the band, friends of the band, audience, promoters, building people, noise police. Oh. Yeah. My favourite people right here in Australia, you know.
Are they with you at McCartney, sat there with the readout thing and the
Perth, right.
96 DB, DB and all that?
I managed to get through 3 of them. They couldn't handle me. You know, they came along and they told me like 100 dBA over a 5-minute LEQ. I went, okay, why is that? Well, that's what the council set. Why did the council set it? Yeah. Well, he just did. It's 100 dBA over 5 minutes. I'm going, okay, why? You know, I just wanted to know why. And I said to him, it's not health and safety because that's already over the limit for health and safety and, you know. So is it for residences, people living nearby, da-da-da-da-da? Yeah, yes. Yeah, so he wouldn't give me an answer. He would not give me an answer. But do you know why? Because he didn't have a clue. No, it's really annoying. I wouldn't mind. I'm really uptight about this. Trust me, right? I could understand if there was one rule and one way they approach it and how they measure it, standard around the world. Yippee, great, you know. So I even wrote an email to Paul's manager about this just the other day. The third person to come along to monitor the gig was this poor young lady who she immediately went to set up inside the tent, and I went, out. Working staff only. I'm from the council. I'm here to. I don't give a fuck. Get out. You want to measure the thing. You shouldn't be inside the tent anyway. It's going to give you a false reading. So set up outside. Oh, but it's I've had them all. You know, it's going to rain. I don't bring a brolly. I don't care. It's not my problem. I don't want you in. Well, you need to see the readout. So no, I don't. I've got my own stuff. You know, we calibrate it in front of them. You know, there you go. Actually, yours is wrong. Theirs was reading lower, so it actually went in my benefit. So anyway, I got talking to her and I said, blah, 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 blah. I said, why? I said, you're doing this all wrong the way you approach visiting artists and that, you know, for events and that. I said, why don't you do a correlation test where you we'll play some noise through the PA system at the venue, and let's say we'll go to 100 dB at the venue, pink noise, anything you like. And then at your trouble spot, take a reading and see what it is. Right? Because if you're good at what you're doing and you've got a great PA system and system engineer, you can literally turn boxes off that are going over roofs and things to help. You can do a lot of things, and it's going to give you a few more dB at the mix, which can make or break your night. I mean, with AC/DC, you can't turn it down beyond a certain point. The stage will take over, and the fans will be wanting to climb into the mix to beat the crap out of you because they feel like they're getting cheated. I mean, seriously, I've had fans, my ears have been bleeding and fans have been going, turn it up. I was like, you're joking, aren't you? But, because you're under dB limits. And the fines are ridiculous. Hundreds of thousands of dollars are involved. And this one girl said to me, this council girl, when I told her, I said, this is how I'd approach it. And she goes, actually, you're the first person that's ever made some sense about noise. I swear to God, I'm not just blowing my... But I said, no shit, you know, like, how do you... And I said, it's just a money-making exercise for you, isn't it? I said, when AC/DC used to go out, every council in the world tour, every local used to rub their hands together and go, oh, there's our new office there's our office being newly decorated, or office party. And she turned around, she goes, you're right. She goes, when U2 came through here, and they went over, they immediately phoned each other and said, yay, we've got our office, we've got our Christmas party. Right, and then she said, yeah, and she goes, I think you guys brought us $100,000 with AC/DC. Yeah. That's freaking disgraceful. It really is. So, I don't know why I won that rant, I'm sorry. But,
Right, there's some questions from the internet there. So, can we do yours first? Is it a quick one? Yeah.
I wanted to know what the relationship's like, especially with like bigger bands with support acts, and whether they have a sound guy, and particularly like the one I'm thinking of is The Answer with AC/DC a few years back.
That's a good question.
Well, we treat them with as much respect as we can. There's obviously guidelines that they have to do their show within, as in we certainly don't want them damaging any of the equipment before we get to use it for our show, blowing the PA up or something stupid. So, sometimes you get accused of clamping them. Well, we're not clamping you, we're just putting something across it, because we don't know what you're going to do. And if you've got a crazy band and you're going to, throw a microphone on the floor, that could cause a few speakers to pop or something. So you do things from a safety point of view, and but you don't. We treat them with the greatest of respect. That's just they're doing. It's not like, oh, you can't be louder than us or anything like that. It's like, just don't mess anything up before we get to use it. Don't cover that. We've had, they come along and next minute, they're throwing water all around the stage, and you're going like, it's not your stage, guys. Come on, play the game. Because they're trying to get their 3 minutes of fame, whatever. I don't care. Treat them with utmost respect, unless they start messing with our world, and then we throw them off stage and kill them and eat them.
Good question. Great answer, Dave. Are there any from people that aren't here but are contacting us through the Ethernet?
So we have a hashtag Ask Pab. Hashtag Ask.
Is it male or female?
Yeah.
Unspecified. There's one from Jeremy Tang, who's actually in the audience.
Oh, he's here, but he's still emailing them in. Well done, Jeremy.
Where is he? Stand up, please. Come on.
There he is. He's at the back. How come you're emailing them in if you're there? But it doesn't matter.
He's playing along.
Okay.
So, have you ever made a mistake during a live show, and how did you cover it, basically? How did you deal with the mistake?
All the time. Too busy looking at distractions. Mistakes. Yeah, I've got a snapshot too far, and things like that, which, we're all human beings, and not, you do get distracted, like I say, at the mix. That's where everybody thinks they should be hanging out for a show. And whether it's the tour photographer, the tour videographer, the manager, the wives, the girlfriends, and they all come down, and they're all chatting because they've seen the show a million times. So they're all chatting away, drinking and all this. And you're going like, I'm actually trying to work here, like, can you shut up? Paul's on a ukulele in a stadium, is it about to feed back, stuff like that. So, I have messed up. Yes, I have. And how you cover it, you just quickly get around it. Just do something very quick.
Any
get
more,
out
Dave?
of it.
I have one from David Shackleton, who's up in Brisbane, actually.
Oh.
And he asked you, are there any items, tasks, or risks that you're anxious about in larger venues, specifically as opposed to theatres?
Well, it applies to anything you're doing, whether it's a small gig or a big gig. You should always approach them in exactly the same professional manner. And power going off.
Yep.
Safety. I'm a big stickler of when they fly PAs, certainly in open air venues. I always say to them, I want that tying off. I don't want to see it blowing around in the wind, for audio reasons and safety. When they're flying PA, keep your eye. Don't be chatting to some guy next to you. Watch that motor, because you got a wrong thing selected, and the PA could be doing this instead of that or that. One's going up, one's going down. bump it first. Safety, 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 safety. I can't express that enough, you know. And then out, you know, if it's a large venue, you just want to try and make sure you're hitting everywhere as evenly as possible, which is obviously difficult.
The next question is actually something to do with that, I believe, from Leo Appleyard. So who specs the PA box?
Oh, that's a good idea.
Do you get input into this? Because he's saying that at the same stadium there's been multiple gigs, and some gigs have additional boxes up top and some don't. He's written, without these equals game over.
So who specs your systems? How much input do you have? That your sound designer?
Yeah, I'm the sound engineer. I mean, my input, yeah, you know, my thoughts obviously count, hopefully. But you rely on the supplier, the vendor, because they have experience. They've done a lot of tours, or you know, like here we're using the vendor's Claire's, but it's
JPJ, yeah, Johnson's, yeah.
And so they're local, so they know the buildings. You know, they've been there many times, and they know by just maybe doing a few extra boxes here, pointing in that corner, you know, it solves a problem. So you rely on local information vendors. It's a team effort, really, and you know, some artists don't have the luxury of a budget, as that might be. You know, I work with top artists, so it's one of those. You know, when you start at the bottom, it's hard. It's hard because there's no budget. You know, oh, I want an S6L. You know, well, we can't afford one, so get over it. So anyway, local vendors are very important for information.
I'm just getting told off for not repeating questions, so we're probably going to get the students to take this, and we'll make a podcast or so. In fact, that could be. What would you like us to do with this recording? What could the students do with it?
You know what? You don't want me to answer that.
Sensible answers.
No, I'm not going to be sensible about it at all. I just hope that something I've said makes sense to you, and it might inspire you in the future in a situation. There's a lot of ways to approach sound. You know, somebody might go that with an EQ, and you'll go okay, and then the other person might go that, and you go okay. Which one is right? It's personal taste and preference, and then there's the other things that come in, like, well, I'm cutting mids and lows, and not boosting tops to make it sound cleaner. You know, okay, I want to make something sound a bit brighter, so you can just turn the top up. Let's just say that. But when you're doing that, then you're going to be problems of spill, cymbals into a vocal mic and all that. So maybe you don't want to boost the top. Maybe you just want to get rid of some mids and lows and clean it up that way. There's two ways to skin the cat, as they say, you know, if they say that. There's several ways, and you just got to find your own way. And you know, it's don't be fooled by fashion or trend or anything like that. You know, just apply what you need to do to get the job done. It's as simple as that, you know. Just because I like AC/DC, just because I do something one way with Paul McCartney, definitely does not apply to doing something with AC/DC. I'm still mixing sound. I'm still using, you know, sound reinforcement. All those things stay the same, but there's two different sides to it. So just stop and think and have a listen to what's going on, you know, and then try stuff.
Yeah, question. I'm supposed to repeat the question so they capture it.
And yeah, throw the podcast away, will you?
Yeah. Have you ever tried any radical designs? Like I remember reading you two were talking about, instead of applying the PA for it, they were going to actually have it above the beam.
They did do that.
In areas, yeah.
Oh, the big M thing with the...
No,
the
almost spotting.
Yeah, they did do that. They just flew lots of cabinets above, pointing down. Yeah, which is gosh. Yeah. I heard.
But it'd be interesting whose idea that was.
Do you know what?
Whether
that's wrong for me to say that because, you know, Joe's a good friend of mine anyway. So, the engineer. No, great for trying stuff, you know. Sometimes it works. We did this one thing once with AC/DC where we, instead of having the the PA where let's just say you've got 3 columns of Electro Voice, it was, EV, MT4s, big old beasts, right? And Harry Witt's, famous sound designer, good friend of mine, used to run DB Sound Chicago, now works for Claire's. He goes, do you want to try something? So I said, yeah, go on then. So he goes, we'll get the speakers, and we're going to do a center column flat, and then the next column to that, we're going to face it in like that. And then the one next to that, we're going to go like that. So it's concave, hang. And I'm going, what? I said, surely you mean the other way, because you're covering over there, you're covering straight ahead, and you're covering over there. He goes, no, we're going to check this out. We'll do this concave hang. So I said, go on then. And fuck me, it was amazing. It was ridiculously how good it was. It was really accurate on focus. Like we could stand right at the back of, and the reason why he suggested it, because once again, noise pollution limits with outside the field. And it was just a flat hang, and we could literally fly it up, and I was standing at the top of the hill with him, and we were just bumping it down, so the whole hang was just doing this on the bumper bar, and you could literally steer the sound. You could hear the sound just drop, went up a click, lock it off there, and literally if you went another 10 foot higher, it just dulled right out. But what was really impressive was the width, because that one was, I don't know how it was working, but it just worked really well. We only tried it a couple of times. Yeah, interesting. So there are, like I say, if you get the chance to experiment, of course, you hopefully don't want to do something and it's a disaster, so that you're jeopardizing the event. But yeah.
Ellie, we're going to close this down because I think we're going to take Pabs for lunch or something.
No, I'm going to go and do a sound check.
He's going to do a sound check. So Ellie, let's have a question, please.
So when you're doing one of your really big stadium shows, like with Paul McCartney or AC/DC, have you ever had really obvious feedback occur during the middle of a performance, or do you have things in place?
I wish I could say no, but yes, I have. I mean, any event. I remember doing MGM Grand. We just started the tour, very early days with the new band, and all new production items, video, lights, everything. And they'd all been having problems. The only department that wasn't having problems was sound. It was like, yes, because every day it'd be like, the swingometer, we used to call it, was like a video today, because, it fucked up. Like one of them was like, we had the screens that were landed on the stage, and he's standing there with his bass, and the start of the show is the screens go up, and the image of him's there, and as the screens go up, he reveals, the real self when we go into the song. Video didn't go up. Fucking poor Abe had to play off a show in behind a screen until he could fix it. So he comes hopping around and does this, right? Swingometer, video, yes. Sounds great, yes. Lighting and all that. So we're doing MGM Grand. And it's all sounding great and all that. And Wixie is doing something on his accordion. And I still know it wasn't me to this day, but John Roden, bless him, he's another departed soul, our monitor engineer, superb monitor engineer. I think he had Wixie's accordion a little bit hot in the side fill. Paul's all about side fills and wedges. Loud. Not AC/DC loud, but still rock and roll loud. So Wixie's walking out. It's a lovely moment, like Michelle or something, as he's doing his thing, and he walks out and starts going, starts to build and build and build and build. And I'm going, and just as I'm about to go, like, is it me? Paul goes, hang on, everybody, stop, hang on, guys, stop. I just want to talk to my sound engineer. This is me in the middle of a gig, right? And then you just feel 16,000 people or whatever turn round and look at you, and you're going like, what the fuck, and he's going, hey, Pab, are you going to sort that feedback back out or what, And I'm going like, fuck, and I'm embarrassed to frick, Oh. And after the show, then it was the arguments of whose fault it was really. But so yes, that's a horrible situation. Things can take off for all sorts of reasons. You know, silly things. You could have a front fill, and you could have a camera on a boom, and it could just sit itself where it just ping back. It could set something off. Mad things happen, you know. And so yes, the answer is yes. But ring stuff out. The killer is trying to deal with the bagpipes that we, because
don't start me on bagpipes.
Because all we use for that, because it's, you know, there's a million of them walking on stage. You can't individually mic them up and all that. Well, you could, but I'm not going to. It's just, you know, ridiculous. Maybe not to the professional, it isn't, but I'm not that professional. And so we just have these 4 shotguns, road shotguns. And the way I figured is, if I put them along the back, right just behind the back line, so they're pointing just over. When they walk on, they'll be walking in between the 4 shotguns and the front vocal mics. So I created a pocket, you know, that when they walk into, it just picks it all up. And we choreograph it out so that, because they have to be underneath the mics when they kick into the song, because it's a reveal, you know, as they walk on. We have to rehearse them so that the pipes come on in a certain order to get under the mics for when they go da, 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 da. And the rest are still walking on, but we've got that initial thing. So things like that, though, you've got to give it a good shove and see what's going to ring out, because it's hot up there for that. Even though they're loud as hell, it's, yeah.
Great question. Right, I was going to close this down unless there's one final question, because I'm very aware that with Daisy, you're such a wonderful person. I'll take your questions any day. What's your question, Daisy?
My question is, since you started working, how many female live engineers have you worked with?
How many female live engineers have you met?
There's quite a few out there, and very good. You know, why not? You know, yeah. I couldn't name any of them, but they are out there. I've come across them. They're working for some high-end artists.
Yeah, Laura Davis from Adlib. She's making a good career now. She's left the Adlib camp and has gone on. You know.
I don't know. I don't know if not my
you had a question there, that lady there.
It's half a comment, but sort of like the question. But I've been thinking, like, since being in this line of work, how if I'd seen more female engineers, how it would have affected me. And I find it funny going to things like this and all 3D and like the language that's used.
Hey, they're worse than us. You know, we have caterers on the road. Lots of them are girls. And we have wardrobe people. Lots of women are on the road doing various jobs. Production assistants, caterers, wardrobe people, hair and makeup, whatever it is. It is a bit of a male world. I have to, you know, it's changed a lot now. It was when I first started. Mark Knopfler was a stickler for saying, I want a complete male crew. Just because he could speak like I'm doing in front of you now, you know, coarse and not very polite. But there's a lot of girls, and they're freaking worse than us. They're out partying till they drink you under the table. You know, I mean, but they're great at their job. They take it very seriously. They're very hardworking. So, yeah, it's just, it's, you know, listen, we live in you know, rain, dirt, crawling underneath. It's a tough. It's great looking at me at the desk doing all that, but all the work covered in chain grease, you know, and trapping your hands in fly cases, and you know, your feet are falling off you because you've been on your feet 20 hours, you know. Then you're in a bus for 4, then you're up again. It's tough. So you know, we're hardcore. You know, we drink, we swear, and get over it. Otherwise, you know, I don't know what to say. You know, it's a tough world, and yes, I don't have to swear. I apologise for that. But it is a tough job. It's, you know, live touring, big productions. It's a long day.
Pab, this has been absolutely incredibly enlightening, and I can't believe you actually turned up and did this. You know,
Never again.
My colleagues kept saying, "Is he going to do it?" And I'm going, "Well, I've asked him. I think so. I think he is. Yeah, I think so."
This is my last 24 hours. So I do the show, not quite happy with it, but there you go. From what you heard, in and out the tent, blah blah blah. Oh, and I forgot to tell you about the Portaloo, which they finally put at the front of the house, the back of the mix, because two of the girls. And the boys needed a Portaloo during a long day out of a show. The show's 3 hours long. We have a Portaloo, right? Two of the operators out front for the visuals are girls. Girls everywhere. Men everywhere. Portaloo finally gets delivered. Thanks. At last, she sent a Portaloo. God, it freaking stank. It was disgusting. It was disgusting, right? And so, this is my night in a tent, stinking of, you know what, a Portaloo. Not really enjoying it, but it all went well. No dramas. Had the Dante glitch in the day, switched to analog, fine. All to plan. Wind didn't pick up, didn't rain. Bonus. Wind's a killer for live shows outdoors. Get through that. Go back to the hotel. Paul's having drinkies. I've been invited. Can't be arsed going. Go downstairs to the bar. I'm not saying that in a blasé way, but I just know what it's like. Yeah. Go downstairs to meet a friend. Well, me and the lighting guy went down. God, let's have a couple of good hard drinks. So a couple of vodka martinis and blah, blah, blah. I get shit-faced. I go to bed at some hour in the morning, declare on Facebook I've quit. I'm quitting at the end of Auckland. It's true. 24 hours of my life. I'm quitting. I'm done with it. I got a million messages. Oh, mate, you know, it was great while you were here and all this. Wake up, I'm going, oh, I speak to the lighting guy, Wally. He said, what van are you going in, 12 or 2 o'clock? 2 o'clock, okay. He said, meet you downstairs, go across the road for a pie, Aussie pie. I was saying, oh, sounds great. As I'm doing that, I'm getting these messages off Tim. And he's going like, where was it? It's great.
Are you coming? Are you okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is your ETA? Yeah. And I'm thinking, what is my ETA? Okay, whatever. And then, anyway, so then then as I'm sobering up and I'm on my way for a pie, I'm going, God, it's here. It's Melbourne, not Sydney, right? So then I have to go upstairs, get everything I need to go straight to the gig, and which is a pass and a jacket. And I didn't get me pie. I've had no breakfast. I'm still hungover. I'm gonna snort one of those bottles of water in a minute because I'm gasping at first. And here I am. And I really, really, really apologise for me being late because you guys have been waiting.
Yeah.
No, seriously, so I'm very sorry. It was not intentional. It was one of those 24 hours.
Pab, there's one last thing I would like to do, and we'd like to present you with the golden SM58. I'm glad you approve of SM58s. This is with our love and appreciation. You're a wonderful human being. You're humble. You've been absolutely wonderful.
That's too much.
Enjoy it. Put it on your mantelpiece.
I will. That's pride of place, that is. That's ace. That really is. I'm going to show that to Paul. And that's ace, that is. That's fantastic. Thanks for putting up with me. I'm sorry I was late. I'm sorry. And I wish I could all invite you to the gig tonight, but I can't. So.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you. Cheers, Pab. You're an absolute gentleman. Thank you so much.